Hey everyone. So we're gonna shift topics for the next couple weeks due to the fact that access to the computer lab is restricted. You still do have access. I believe Todd sent out an email this morning saying that the computer lab will be open to those who need it, but there will be some restrictions. There's going to be a monitor at the labs, making sure that anyone comes in doesn't have any symptoms, and also that you are maintaining adequate space between each other. So it's an inconvenience for sure, but if you need the computer lab for any reason, be sure to take advantage of it because it is accessible. You will need your card, however. Make sure that you bring that. So we're going to shift topics. I know we're getting into Rhino Inside. There's still a lot to explore with that program, and hopefully as they continue to develop it, there's going to be even more. But for right now, I thought we'd shift gears down a little bit and go back to basics. And one thing we haven't really done is go through a Revit project from start to finish. And of course, we're not going to get super detailed, but I thought it would be a good idea to go step by step and develop a project over the next couple classes. So we'll do probably an hour and a half, just find a stopping point in that kind of time range, and just continue to develop it over time. And I thought a really cool project to do and try and tackle would be the Kistefos Museum by Bjarke Ingels. It's a really simple, clean move. We've obviously done it before when we were learning how to do conceptual massing. But I thought it's a cool project. It should be simple enough that we won't run into too many issues, but still complex enough that we'll work through some challenges that will be applicable to your guys' school projects. So I uploaded a couple more drawings onto the Canvas page. You can find those here. Not super detailed, but I thought there was a couple that have some landscape in there, and we'll get into how to manipulate topography as we go forward. But we're just going to walk through start to finish and build this thing. So open up your Revit and make sure to open up the template, and make sure you hit New Project, then go Browse, hit the template, because especially as detailed as we probably will get, want to make sure that we are in a project and we're working from the same basic Revit elements that come in with that template. All right, so let's get our properties. Okay. So first is going to level 1, and we're just going to insert a image, one of the drawings, ground floor drawings, into the project place. All right, and then thankfully this plan comes with a scale. I'm pretty sure that this is in meters, so let's go up to the top, hit scale, go down here, let's just guesstimate really quick. Let's see if that works. So make sure to hit 10 and then an M. Make sure that you're specifying meters, which that is. Cool. All right. So let's place this somewhat centrally in our window, and then let's move our elevations so that they're on or generally in the right area. Remember, you move the annotation with the square, but if you want to move the actual elevation cut, you got to click that triangle. It'll bring up this line, and you can move those back. Find the other one somewhere. There it is. All right. And then we'll go into the south elevation, and we'll bring in a section 1. Do the same thing. Scale 0 to 10 meters. Alright, and then let's place this. So we're going to have to create some new levels and adjust the ones that we have. So let's grab what seems to be the top of the floor plate. No, sorry. Top of the floor plate is where the people's feet are, obviously. So let's shift that down. And then let's center this again so that it's in the middle of our page. And let's drag the extents of the levels out so they reach both sides. All right. And then let's adjust. So in this museum, there is obviously the ground floor, and we will hold on, I gotta pause. All right. So where were we? So we need to move these levels. We got the level 1, and since it looks like it drops down on the right side, what we'll do, we'll uncheck this and take the padlock and unlock it. That'll unlock it from the rest of the chain of levels, so we can move it individually. Put that over, and then come over here. Check here, level 1. All right, and then level 2 looks like it'll be a little bit higher. Move it up a foot. And then we need to copy a level down so that we get one on the right halves. So we'll call this level 1A. And then we'll call this one level 1B. Alright, and then we'll move this level down. We'll have 2 level heights essentially. This will be lower roof. Let's copy this one up. Higher roof. Whoa, hair. Okay. Alright. So we got that set up. Let's do one thing. Let's click both images. Let's go up and pin them so they don't move accidentally. Oh, I almost forgot the sublevels. So there seems to be one sublevel down here. So let's take a level, copy it down. And then we'll do the same thing that we did for that other level. We'll unlock it. And then using the circle tab, shift it over. And then put that on this side as well. Alright, and then let's call this sub-level 0. Okay. Alright, so now we have that. So now what we'll do is we will create the actual massing. Because this form is so complex, we're going to have to create a conceptual mass to generate the form. So we'll go in, do an in-place mass, and then let's set up a couple views. So first we're going to want, let's go back to that south elevation. We're going to set up a couple cross sections, essentially, some reference planes that we can set up our profiles on. So let's go up to the reference plane and create one here at the front. Remember, it doesn't matter the dimension as long as you remember to name it. So this will be the, let's just call this A for right now. We'll just go across. So let's go until it starts to change. Let's call this B. Alright, copy this guy over. Let's copy it over until it stops. Drag this guy up. Oops. Call this C. And then go to the final. Call this D. And I just want to preface this by saying that I have not built this yet, just because it's going to be such a long project that it would not be practical for me to take 8 hours to build something and then have to restart. So we may have to go back and alter some things, or I may have to change some things up. It might not be the most linear project, but hey, this is how we do it in real life. So 3D view, and then let's draw just a rectangle. Let's set that placement plane to the first, and go to our front view. Make sure we go to lower roof, and then level 1B. And then let's go to our level 1 plan. Let's measure that first width out. It's about, we'll just call it 50 feet. So remember to isolate one line. Let's tab through to 50. Alright, let's just move it over a little bit. Alright, and then let's create one at the far end. Set reference plane D, hit our rectangle. Let's do so level 1A up to the high roof. Let's go into our level 1, dimension this out. 30, about 34 feet. Let's see again. Yeah, about 34 feet. Can't remember, but whatever. 34 feet. Well, that's pretty square. Alright, let's center this somewhat. Alright. Let's go into level 1 again. Okay. Alright, and so we can highlight that rectangle and move it over so it's aligned with our floor plan. Do the same thing for the other side. If you can find it. I can't, so we'll just go back to the 3D view and center it. You know what we'll do, actually, you know what we can do? Be smart is draw a couple reference planes for the center line of the building. So let's do that. Hit another reference plane. Let's call it center long. Hang it out a little bit. Alright. And then we can do the same thing for the outside dimensions. Outside A. So we'll call the shorter side A and B. So outside A, outside B. And then we'll call the longer side 1 and 2, just to help distinguish. confusing. All right. Let's go back to 3D view. And actually, let's go to an east elevation. Okay, so almost good. So let's drag that one end out. Reference line. And then let's move this guy over. It's in between. All right. And let's make this truly center. So let's take dimension real quick. Dimension 3 of them. Just hit that equal sign above. That'll equal out and make it truly center. And then actually make it even better. Alright, so 8'6", 9'6". So let's take the difference, make both of them 9 feet. Alright, and those adjusted with it. Alright, so let's do the same thing. Right now, if we go back to our 3D view, we have the two sides. They're all aligned. They're all in nice reference planes. So let's copy this. Let's paste this to paste it to the same place, but then change the reference plane from A to B. All right, so now we got the two. And then let's do the same thing with this. Copy, paste to the same place, and change the reference plane to C. All right. So now what we can do, might have to add a third. Actually, we're definitely going to have to add a third a center reference plane so that we get the rotation. Because if we just do a crate form, it'll just do that straight. And what we want to do is highlight all of the profiles and do one nice long extrusion with a clean, precise rotation in the middle. So let's go back to our level 1. Make one more reference line. Let's dimension it so it's completely in the center. Let's call it center short. We have a center long reference plane and a center short. And this is just my OCD, but I don't like when reference lines or planes are kind of floating in the middle or are overextended past where the reference geometry is. So that's just me. You can leave it however you want. Okay, so I figured it out. Essentially, instead of trying to do more profiles in the center and control the rotation that way, actually creating more profile lines in the straight sections is much easier, and it gives you a nice gradual rotation in the center. So I tried one division, and it still was giving me some weird, funky form in the far right. So I'm going to create two. Let's create two new reference lines in the middle of A and B, and then do the same thing for C and D. And if you hit copy up the top, this multiple is always unchecked. If you check it, then you can copy elements more than once at a time. Do our dimensions and hit equal. Same thing on the other side. Dimension, dimension, dimension. Then hit equal. Now they're spaced out. And we got to change their names. So we'll call this one AAB because it's closer to A, and then we'll call this one ABB. Do the same thing for the other one. Oops. Call this one CCD, and this one CDD. Okay, so then go into our 3D view, copy, paste the same place, change the reference line to CDD, and then do the same thing, copy, paste the same place, CCD, then do the same thing with the shorter guy, copy, paste, same place, AAB, copy, paste same place, ABB. Alright, so then we can highlight all of these, hit create form, and then go in and actually tab in and grab one of the profiles of the larger and rotate it 90 degrees, and then do the same thing for the following 3 profiles. Alright, and if we go to look, oh yeah, that looks so nice. We got a little undulation on the left and the right, but honestly, it looks pretty good. It'll definitely be more than enough to generate some walls and ceilings with. Alright, so let's hit finish mass, and let's save this project. Make sure that you're saving once every 30 minutes, which we're probably about once I cut out all of my thinking. Let's go to the folder that we'll want. Kistefos. Probably spelling that wrong. Save. Okay. Alright, so now that we have our generic or our conceptual mass, we can do some mass floors. So let's hit mass floor, hit 1 for 1A, 1 for 1B, and then 1 for level 2. That's interesting. Let's just do 1A and 1B for right now. And of course it did. Alright, so it creates one for level 1. Alright. It's only creating a level for level 1, which kind of sucks. Or level 2, excuse me. Let's go into our level 1. Let's move this image so that it's actually in line with the mass. We can use our arrow keys to shift it over a little bit. Somewhat centered. Alright. And then what we can do now is create some structural. Oh, that's actually relatively close. Looks like the extrusion a little bit different, but for the most part, it's pretty good, pretty decent. So let's create some structural grids to go along with it. Let's go to View, or excuse me, Architecture, Grid, and then every one of these I-beams will place a grid. And again, OCD, always want the bubble at the top. And then let's copy and paste this over. Looks like every 16 feet. 10.5. do that for right now. Close. Of course, we could have arrayed this too, which would have been much faster and cleaner. But thankfully, somehow, I did that pretty well. All right, and then do some linear grids. Look like. So with these linear grids, we might have to create different ones for the rotations. Actually, let's not do the linear grids for right now, because those are going to be fluctuating as the twist goes on. These more short north-south grids are going to be constant as it rotates. It's going to subdivide it. So let's see, and then let's go to a north elevation, check that out, make sure that worked good. So I at least know why. So level 1A doesn't cut through because it really doesn't have a bottom. So that'll just be one. And I think level 1B may not be cutting through because it's not all the way cut through. So let's match for level 1B again. Nope, still didn't. That's weird. Alright. We'll just have to sketch it pretty close to what is there. Make sure we get our floor plans populated on the project browser. So go to View, Plan Views, Floor Plan, and then do 1A. Let's do sublevel 0. 1A. And 1B. Okay, so first we're going to create floors, and to do that, let's see, so 1B is tied to the shorter far end, so this end. So let's create a floor. So the mask floors aren't going to work. Mask floors really work for tall skinny options with multiple floors. With this, since our floors are actually lined up with the bottom surfaces, they're not going to cut through as well, and it really doesn't necessarily matter. If we go into some of our guiding imagery, you can see it looks like the floors come in from either side, and then there's a connecting ramp that goes through. And so we'll build that ramp at a later date. Right now, we'll just focus on drawing the floors in for each half, and then one for the shaft on the taller side, one for the subfloor on the other side, and then we'll create the walls for the faces, and then set up some other drawings. So let's do 1B, which is the shorter stubbier side. All right, so let's create floor, and let's go in. Let's do a 6-inch concrete slab. So go in, edit type, and go into the edit structure. We already have cast in place, which is what we want. So let's do 6 inches. Press OK. Press OK. And then let's use the outside edges for right now, and it stops about there. So grid line 6, and that's where it starts to transform. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go in and offset the outside edges. Yeah, let's do a foot. Make sure our copy is off. All right. So when we do the outside perimeter, it comes in, and then press OK. All right, we got one floor, and then let's go to 1A, do the same thing. Let's go in and copy this image. So we have some guidance. Remember to pin it so it doesn't move. And then do same floor. 6. Ooh. One thing we forgot to do, rename it. So rename this 6-inch slab, concrete slab. It's okay. Do the same thing. Go to grid line 11. That's where it starts to transform. And then offset in 1 foot from each exterior. Okay. Okay. 2 floors. And then let's go into our north elevation, south elevation. And then let's turn this. So I don't know if we've done offset override graphics yet. If you right click on an element, go to override graphics by element, it'll populate all of these guys. And then what you can do is you can manipulate projection lines, patterns, all that good stuff, as well as transparency. Let's turn on the transparency so we can see through. That shaft on the one side is on the right. So it's on the taller side, all the way on the right. And it's right there. So let's copy this image one more time to level 2. Paste this current view. Alright. And then once again, override graphics and view. Turn the transparency up. Let's draw floor. Let's draw another floor. So this one, so those were 2 slabs. Let's do a 3-inch concrete on a 2-inch metal deck. That's what typically your standard, any floor that is elevated is going to be concrete on a metal deck. The metal deck is put down, and then the concrete is poured over, and it creates a really rigid, solid structural slab. All right, so I just did that generally. Let's make this an even 22 feet, and then offset from each side 1 foot. 1 foot. All right. Press OK. I actually just looked back at the couple of the sections, reference sections. Looks like that second floor slab is actually only in the middle. So we'll go back to our model and just edit the floor slab to be in the middle. 10 feet sounds like a good dimension. All right. So level 2, honestly, probably won't even worry about level 2. All right. So the next thing we got to do is create some walls. So in the renderings, we'll start with the renderings. We'll get into the actual undulation of the facade in a later study, but for right now, let's just set up a wall type to then put on the face. All right, so let's go in. Let's do edit type, and then let's duplicate this and call this Kistefos. I think it's spelled. Where is it? Yes. Okay. Oh, there might be any Kistefos metal panel. All right, and then let's do a typical metal wall. So let's add some layers. So we'll do a typical metal stud wall. Metal stud layer, perfect. Press OK. And we'll do a 6-inch metal stud wall, and then let's insert a couple other layers. So this builds a wall type, builds the layers of the wall. So in a typical wall, we'll have the stud layer, and then on the inside, which you can see is this defined here and here. So the exterior is near the top, interior is near the bottom. On the inside is a finished wall, or typically what is considered drywall, gypsum wallboard. And we want to define the function of that. So our metal stud is structure, it's what's holding up the wall. Our gypsum wallboard is actually just going to be a finish layer, and type that in, should be in our materials. And then in typical American architectural construction, it's 5/8 of an inch thick. And on the opposite side, you'll have a substrate. That'll typically be a reinforced gypsum wallboard or plywood. So we'll just do plywood sheathing. We typically do 5/8 to 3/4. Actually, we'll do 3/4 of an inch. And then insert another tab. And let's do, this will be our finish layer, which will be a metal panel. Which we have, metal panel. Press OK, and then let's just do 2 inches, pretty standard. Now in a typical wall section, you may include vapor barriers, insulation, which actually we should do. Let's insert one more. And that will be classified as a thermal or air layer. And then let's do rigid insulation. It's okay. And then let's do 2-inch. So we have almost a foot thick wall. Let's press OK. And then, so this face tucks underneath, so that'll definitely be a wall. So do a wall by face. What does that say? That guy. And then that guy. Let's turn on the shaded so we can see more accurately when it's been filled. Alright, so we have 3 sides with that metal panel now, and the ends are going to be curtain wall. So we can do wall by face and then go in, select the curtain wall. Let's go in and adjust the layout. So curtain panel, we want to be glass. Let's just hit glaze for right now. We'll get a little bit more detailed later on. Layout. Do none for right. Actually, let's do vertical. vertical, let's do maximum spacing 5 feet. And then change the vertical mullions, interior 2.5 by 5, 2.5 by 5, 2.5 by 5, and then horizontal. We'll have 2.5 by 5 again. Alright. Done with that. That's okay. Have it wall by face. Do each one. Alright. And then we want to do a curtain wall or curtain system on top of this guy. And we want, let's see, let's go back to our reference images. So it looks like it'll definitely wrap, but so every 5 feet. Let's change this. So let's rename this Kistefos roof or wall to roof. Glazing. Curtain panel, let's change that to the glazed, same as our end glazing. And then let's do, instead of here, so one of these grids will have a fixed number, and then the other one will be 5 feet. Let's do max spacing 5 feet. And then we'll see where that lands. We might have to switch that depending on which way the surface UV is set up. Let's create system. Okay, and then tab in to select the actual system and change that grid number to 1. Let's see, I think it's right. Ooh, let's actually change it to 0. Oh, it has to be 1, of course. Alright, we'll have something split down the middle. And then let's go in, edit type. Alright, so exterior mullions. So grid 1 is the fixed number, so that is these 3. So interior we will have none. And then on the border we'll have the same 2.5 by 5. And we're going to have to change these. I didn't want it realistic. And then let's have an interior type 2.5 by 5, 2.5 by 5. That's okay. Alright. So it's a relatively simplified version of this this guy, but we will use it as our base, and we'll start to refine it and detail it as we go. Actually, one thing I'm going to do, see how these mullions come down and then they kind of wrap around in the same layout as the end piece? I'm going to do that same thing for this. So instead of having these be, just going to rotate it. So I'm going to edit this wall type, duplicate it, and call it curtain wall rotated, and then essentially flip flop these mullions and grids, so that, yep, delete grid line. So now it kind of comes across in horizontal fashion and comes down. Alright, so now we got that. We go into our visibility graphics and turn off, oh, mask is turned off. Turn this on, and then go on. turn it off again. See if that does anything. Probably had something to do with that error message that I just clicked through. Alright, so now we can go in and hide this for right now. Won't be. Alright, and let's go in and hide the mask. So what we'll do is create a view template for the floor plan. And if you click into the view template, there's already some pre-made ones. So we'll click the architectural plan, and then we'll go in and go to edit model and make sure that the mask is turned off, which it is. Press OK. Alright, for some reason, it's because it just... Alright, let's save this real quick. I'm going to save it, close it out, reopen it. It must be because I created the masking in this session. Okay. There we go. Go to 3D view. Yep, now that it is closed. Alright, level 1. Alright, so we'll set the architectural plan view template for all of the floor plans. So what we can do also, you don't have to go into every single plan view. You can actually select multiple views from the project browser and then go down to edit view template and hit architectural plan, press OK, and they will now have architectural plan view templates for each one. Now let's go in and let's set some poche to be able to see more specifically where it is cutting through the wall. So we go to edit model, go down to walls, and then go to cut pattern, solid fill. Let's just do a nice gray gradient. That's okay. That's where it's cutting through. And then let's do a section cut through here. Let's go to view, section. All right. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move the level 1 up 1.5 feet to get it outside of the wall. Actually, you know what? I'll flip this. There it is. Okay, yeah. So go in, go to your section cut, and right now, if we undid that, so our floor is underneath the wall right now, and the reason that is the case is because the finish face exterior is where the location line of this wall is, and so that's where it is aligning to the face of the conceptual mass. So if we change this to the interior, then they'll shift the wall out, and then we can just move this guy up a foot to get it out of there. Actually, let's just keep it where it is. Sorry. And then let's do that for the rest of the wall. So go finish face interior. One more. All right. All right. Let's go back to our section. One. All right, that looks a little bit better. All right. Huh. Kind of got that right. All right. All right. So the last thing that we will do today is create the topography around this, just really simply for right now. I don't know if anyone has ever done topography in Revit, but it's a pain in the ass. But when you're setting up renders, setting up context, it's really key to be able to see how your building is integrating with the surrounding site and context. So it's good to know how to do it and what some of the workarounds are for it. So we have a site plan already created. If we go to it, let's get rid of these grids. Site plan 1, wonder what that is. That's okay. Nope. All right. Since this is a one-off plan, let's just edit the visibility graphics, go to annotation categories, and go down to elevations, uncheck that, and then grids, uncheck that, press OK. All right. We have our angle to true north. So let's go back into one of our levels and grab that image, press copy, and paste to the same place. All right, so actually let's do two things. One, let's go in and let's measure what true north is. So one way to really easily do this is draw a vertical and then just draw a line close. Let's measure the angle of it. 70 degrees. So to change the angle true north, click into the base point and then type in angle to true north at 70, and then make sure that it's the right way. Sometimes you might have to hit -70. So let's go in to your view properties, go down to orientation. So project north is how you draw it. So make sure that you're always drawing orthogonally, or as orthogonal as you can in relation to the actual building that you're drawing. And then don't angle anything. Make sure just to angle to get the true north, just type it in here. If you draw to true north at a weird angle, it's just going to make setting up your drawings and views that much more difficult, because then you're going to have to angle and rotate every one. It's going to screw up a bunch of stuff. So once again, draw it orthogonally, draw it completely 90 degrees, and then rotate by typing it in here. And then if you want a drawing that is to true north, go over to the orientation, hit true north. Now that is, and if we go over to our handy dandy, there it is true north. So it's rotated correctly. We can put this back to project north. All right, so now that that's done, we can go in and hide the project base point. Select it, hide, and hide. Okay, topography. Yes. So we have some. Why can't I think of the term? Anyway, we have some grade change. So what we can do, if you go to massing and site, sorry I didn't walk through that very well, getting tired. If we go to topography, under massing and site, click that guy, and then what we can do really quickly, just to go through it, place point, we're gonna these are elevation points, and a bunch of them at the same elevation will create. Why can't I think of the line? Contours. There it is. Contours. So multiple elevation points at the same elevation will create contours, and then you can manipulate them individually to create the difference in grade. So right now, just to make it easy, I'm going to create one point at 0 elevation, which I believe is 1B, and then I'm going to copy it down, and then I'm going to select both of them and copy them over. All right. That's going to create one flat piece of elevation. If we go to 3D view, you can see it is flush with level 1B, and since level 1A is a little bit lower, it's a little bit higher. So what we'll do is go in to edit surface, and we'll highlight both of the topography over here and do negative, actually what is the difference here? -3 feet. Go in, -3 feet, just lower it. Okay. So that's a really simple piece of topography. If we want to get more detailed with it, what we can do, go in, let's override graphics of this and turn the transparency up so we can see the contours underneath. And then let's just say, let's go back in, edit the surface of the topography, and then start placing some points. So we know that on the on this side is the -3, that is at the floor line. So let's place a couple right there, and then looks like, let's just say that this is our -3. Do the same thing over here. So basically just want to create some elevation points around there. And let's do the same thing over here, place point. And on this side, the floor line is at 0 elevation. So make sure we change it to 0. Alright, so now we have our two levels, or 2 elevations of at our different floor lines. Now we'll create the grade in the middle, or in the center. Create the slope down to create the river. And so what we'll do, you can draw individual elevations at each contour line, or you can you can skip. So these are probably in meters, so I'll just do it real simply as 3 feet increments. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, -18 feet. If you do that, and then you click in, you start to see, oh, it must be cut off. Let me create a couple. Alright, hit the check mark, and then it looks like our view is not all the way down. So let's go to edit range. Yeah, so it's getting cut off at the 1A level. So let's go make our bottom unlimited. Same thing for our view depth. And then it looks like our intervals are only at 10 feet. So to see the contours, to define the amount of contours and at what elevations, if we go into the little arrow at the bottom of our model site tab, site settings, our contour line display right now is at 10 feet. So let's do 3 feet since that'll match. Yeah, that'll match our drawing. 1 feet. Okay, there we go. And then, go back to site settings. Delete this. 3 feet. There we go. We could have secondary contours in here. Let's leave them out for right now. All right, we got to do the other edge of the river. Let's go back in. So the river is going to be all at the same elevation because it is water. So we will keep the negative 18 feet. Go in. Place them. Extend this out a little bit. That's okay. Now, if we go to a 3D view, look at that. Of course, we can change the material of the surface. If we select it over on the far right under material, go in, select the grass tool. We don't have one, so let's go to default. Let's duplicate this and call it grass. There we go. There we go, grass. Change the shading material to a nice gray. Go lay down. Go lay down. That's okay. Okay, again. I got nice grass. And then one thing, let's real quick to create the river itself. We can do it one of two ways. We can either create a building pad at negative 18 feet, and it will create one nice flat surface, or we can use subregion, and that will just essentially split the topography. Let's do building pad, and let's how do I want to do this? Let's do lines for right now. What I do is come back in and fillet these lines. One thing to remember with a building pad and a split region is you cannot go outside of the surface. You have to stay inside. So that's why I always go outside of where I want I need the specific topography changes to be, because I'll have these weird outside unresolved edges. Alright, so I got that. I'll go back into my fillet arc and round some of these out. Actually, fuck. I know what to do. Sorry. Now I know the easiest way to do water, and I don't know why I didn't think of this before. Let's create a floor and go to a generic one, duplicate, call it water. Water material. Nope, so we'll do it again. Default, duplicate, water. Change this guy to blue. And then what you can do is just draw a real basic rectangle that captures all of the outside boundaries, and then set this to -18 feet. Press enter. And actually, if we raise it up slightly. Actually, keep it at -18 feet. Go into topography, edit surface. We'll just create the bottom surface to be deeper. Place point at -25. We'll just go down the center line of the river. There we go. We can manipulate that and edit that if we so choose, because it doesn't seems to be pretty gradual over here. Let's do that a little bit more. There we go. Alright. So that will be the first part of our Kistefos museum. I'm definitely saying that wrong. I'm going to look up how to pronounce that correctly so I don't do that for the next couple classes. But get this built, and then what I want you to do is draw a section and make sure it incorporates all the floor plans and the topography. And then actually, let's turn on, let's create a view template, architectural section, go into model display, change this to shaded, go down, actually, keep that hidden line. I just want to turn on shadows, cast ambient shadows, regular shadows, and then go down to lighting, turn the shadows down. So not overpowering, press OK. See how that looks. Don't look too bad. It's a little weird. Let's see what it looks like with the model shaded. Yikes. Alright. Entering that, we can manipulate the materials. Let's do that real quick. Use the glass so it's not so bright blue. Tab through and grab that system panel, unpin it real quick so we can manipulate it. Go in to the material, which is glass, and turn this freaking to a nice shade of blue. something real faint. It's always nicer. That's okay. That's okay. And then make sure to pin this glazing back so it's still linked to the wall. Alright. Alright, that's much better. We'll get into how to manipulate the topography cut. Actually, real quick. Sorry. Go back to the site settings underneath the masking site and elevation of post shade base. Make it negative 100. So it was at negative 10, and that's why that post shade is getting cut off right down here. So if we make it a negative 100, it's going to go down until we're done. And then, of course, this is our water line. And now we could create a water topography, put it in here. But for right now, we can just hide this. Actually, before we hide it, let's create a shaded region. Go to annotate, region, let's go down, solid black. I think I've gone over detail items before, but these are just the two-dimensional drawing tools that Revit has to allow you to draft over the three-dimensional model, since 3D models can only get so detailed before they get obnoxiously heavy and way too complicated. And so filled regions are just solid hatches or different patterns that you can overlay on top of your drawing. So let's go into the edit type, duplicate, let's create a water. Let's keep it solid fill. Let's do a nice blue, make it a little bit more grayscale. Okay, that's good. And let's create it over here, do an arc for the bottom edge. It's not super pretty, but it works. Let's hide the floor. Alright, so it's a pretty general model for right now, but I think it works. Let's do one more thing. Let's take these grids, adjust them a little bit nicer. Let's go to our architectural section view template, go into the annotation tab, go down to section. Oh man, section, halftone it. And it's not sections, it's grids, isn't it? Yes. Grids, and let's do levels while we're at it. So levels and grids, halftone, press OK. Alright. And here, let's override the one more. Let's override the topography. So let's go into edit model. Go down to topography and let's override the cut pattern. Let's make it a solid fill and let's make it just a dark gray. It's okay. Alright. Yeah, let's make it a little bit darker so it distinguishes itself from the walls. That's better. Alright. We have a kind of a pretty nice section. One thing, sorry. You'll only have to turn this wall section since we're spending so much time on it, but since we spent so much time developing the model, let's make a nice drawing out of it. So let's go down to the model categories. Let's go to wall, cut poche, patterns, solid hatch. Let's do a, let's do, what would look nice? Orange, gray, orange. So an orange poche, just so you can see what's getting cut through. And then of course we want to do that same thing with the mullions and the glass panels. One thing you can do, so if you go into a color and you have a color that you really like, if you see this little dash line highlighted around the box, if you tab, it'll go down to a custom color that you can add that color. So now it will populate across the entire project and you don't have to keep adjusting it to match. That's going to be really helpful when we go up to curtain panels, curtain mullions, do a solid override with that color. And do the same thing with the panels. And you can kind of see it. All right, cool. So let's actually, if we go in to our view template, change this display detail level to fine. Now we can see all the different layers of the wall that we created. So that interior gypsum layer, the metal panel layer, sheathing layer, insulation, and the metal panel. I just want to show you that before we finished. Okay, so that is what we are going to, or what you're going to submit. Throw on some dimensions to the levels and the grids, and print a PDF of this section along with 2 perspectives of the 3D model. And they can be, pretty general, and hand those in. And I'll have that in the assignment. All right. Thank you for bearing with me as I work through some of these forms, the conceptual massing, and some of the other technical difficulties that we ran into. I'm going to have to edit out a lot of this, so if it's a little bit jumpy, I apologize, but we're rolling with the punches. Hope everyone is healthy. If you have any issues, as always, feel free to email me, contact me. I can set up a digital conference call through WebEx if you need. All right.